You're live. You're on the air. It is Talking Wax. It is Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, sharp on the dot. I'm not late, but I want to talk rock and roll. I want to talk vinyl. And the best person that I could ask to come on this show and talk rock and roll is Slim Jim Phantom of the Stray Cats. The man knows music. He made great music. And we're going to hear some stories with ADIKA and Jim tonight on Talking Wax. It all starts now. Are you ready? Fix your wig, get your life together, because it's all happening. Bam, check it out.
Talking Wax.
Slim Jim, you're on the air.
Hey, buddy. How you doing, Steph? Great to be with you.
You know what? It's like the old times. Saturday night, you and I are together really quick. And everybody watching, this is the fabulous Slim Jim Phantom of the legendary Stray Cats only. And before we get into the party over here, right below Jim, subscribe now, like this, share it out to somebody you think that might like rockabilly and good rock and roll. Jim, last time we spoke on this thing, we pre-recorded, which it's going to air at 8 p.m. tonight. And we talked about Stray Cats, a great record, which is behind me. If you could see, you probably can't see it, but it's right over there.
There we go. Rant and Rave.
Rant and Rave, right over there. And we're going to be talking 8 p.m. about all the magic that you did on that and what influenced you. And I don't want to give it away, but I wanted you to come on before we talked about that, because you did a tweet on Instagram and you said American Hot Wax.
Yeah, you and I talking amongst ourselves.
And that is so funny you mentioned that. American Hot Wax. For people who don't know this movie, American Hot Wax, right here.
Yeah.
And it's a legendary movie. It's basically, for everybody out there that wants to learn, it's about Alan Freed. It was a movie, American Hot Wax, and it was produced by Kenny Vance, who is originally from Jane the Americans. But you got Jerry Lee Lewis on here, Chuck Berry, and it was the Paramount in Brooklyn, which was the place to play back in the 50s, right, Jim?
Mm-hmm. Before my time.
It was before your time, but it influenced the Stray Cats, a lot of those cats over there.
Sure. Oh, 100%. American Hot Wax. Yeah. One of my favorites. It was in my deep memory bank when you announced the show today and you and I talking. The first thing that popped into my head when I heard Talking Wax, I know that's your show, but is American Hot Wax. It's fantastic.
It's fantastic. And it's so funny because my wife, the wives, they control us, Slim. They control us. So when I came up with the name for Talking Wax, I thought of this movie, American Hot Wax. And she goes, nobody knows wax. But that was the slang, everybody, for wax. And I want to say hello to a couple of good people in the audience I see over there. I see Debbie and I see Chris Vickery, a lot of good supporters. Thank you guys for being here with us tonight. We appreciate the love and support, and share it out. And okay. So now back over here. This one was a special one, but this album gets confused with movie, gets confused with Let the Good Times Roll.
Yeah, and me confused it for sure.
Which is this one, which originally Chuck Berry, Let the Good Times Roll. It was Ralph Nader. Richard Nader. He made this movie. Ralph Nader, God. Anyway, what is Stephen
like it
tonight?
Anything he would like it.
He did like it. But this movie was made about 1973 on Bell Records, and originally it's a great album, Slim. It opens up, and this was like my Bible. This and Meet the Beatles, if you could see it here. Okay. You got Bo Diddley, you got Chubby Checker, Little Richard over there. You got Bill Haley, which is a big guy on Stray Cats, huh?
It's very funny with that record. They show original photos of them in the sleeve, but I think all the songs were recorded for the film and for that record. I don't think it's original versions of the songs, right?
No, it's live.
Yeah,
it's live, and there's some also you'll hear in this record itself. They're talking to the audience, and not the audience, but news, like when it was very heavy, it was racial about how they were torn in the States. And you got the church people talking. I don't want crazy because I want people to get mad at me over here. We got to be very careful. I love everybody, but look at Fats Domino here. And it's the way this album is. It's so 70s looking.
Yes. But the pictures are the ones from the 50s.
When I was a kid,
it's all a fantastic mixed metaphor in there.
When I was a kid, I would look at this and I'd be like, look, they sketched it out. And then it fades into this. And it's just a fabulous record. Little Richard does not look like this in the movie. He's glam. And he's wild in the movie.
That was him. I think that photograph might be taken from the Girl Can't Help It film, or certainly that exact era. But if he's got the same suit on, I think it might be a still photograph from the movie.
Slim Jim and I have something in common over here. So the first time I saw this movie was in Canarsie, Rockaway Parkway. And Jim, you know Rockaway Parkway.
Yeah, that's where my dad was the fireman. Rockaway Parkway, Farragut Road. Station House 170, right on the corner.
I know the station very well. I used to walk by it all the time. It's probably, good old Jim. He was probably working there when I was a little kid. Huh?
Big Jim would have let you ring the bell if you asked him.
I threw a slice of pizza in the street, and back then you had the police officers with the double-breasted jackets, and he yelled at me. And it was there was a fruit stand across the street from the fire station, and I got in trouble. I'll never forget. And it scared the hell out of me, Jim. Scared the hell out of me. God, you know what? 8 o'clock tonight, we talked about a lot of good stuff, and there's so much to uncover with the Stray Cats and your influence. We talked about Gene Vincent, Eddie Cochran, all the goods that influenced that record. What a great record, Jim.
Let me show you quickly right behind me. I'd like to say it was a setup, but the records that are right behind me all the time are these two. The first two from Gene Vincent. That really changed our life completely. Me, for sure. And the other two, Lee and Brian. 100%. That's the first one. And in some funny way with the record business in the past, Bebop-A-Lula is not on any of the albums.
Really?
Single only, yeah.
How wild is that? That's funny that you had that.
This will show you how OG it is. Can you zero in on that?
I see the 516.
Whirl and Disc, $8.99. That's in Farmingdale on Long Island.
So when you bought that record, you're just a kid. You're getting turned on to it all right there, huh?
And it was an import back then. And this one is, you can't see exactly. Well, you can get close and you want to see that.
Yeah, let's see.
It's made in France.
Oh, fabulous, man.
And that's what we found at the local store because they didn't have these at Sam Goody. I didn't really want to seek out having to drive some, it would have been great if it was right there.
Yeah.
But you had to go. You really did have to go and seek this stuff out. And the guy, what we always still talk about, I speak to the other two, Lee and Brian, all the time. And Brian and I were talking about the guy from Whirl and Disc back then. He didn't even seem to notice or care. He had a little boutique record store that had the old stuff that wasn't handled by Sam Goody or the big chains. And we would go in there completely dressed up, 1979, right? Who was like that? No. And the guy never batted an eye. You and I would say, hey, you kids, come on. What are you looking at? The guy never said one word to us.
Wild.
You got any Gene Vincent? Yeah, it's over there. We checked out, and he never cracked he never cracked.
That's great. That's great.
Never let on. Where are you crazy kids? Where are you playing? What are you dressed up? Nothing. Or great. It's great to see young people into this thing and doing nothing.
Nothing.
The guy. Here we are talking about him 40 plus years later.
That's wild, man.
Yeah.
Now, did you meet Lee before Brian, or Brian before you met?
I met them probably both at the same time. We're all from. This is going back to really. What's ever before grade school. I don't know.
Wow. That's a long time.
5-7 years old. Yeah.
I always picture a guy like Brian. You'd meet him in the school hall with a guitar flip on his back, that's in my head. I always vision that,
But now it doesn't matter so much, but Brian's too older than us. And back then it didn't, now it doesn't matter. Right.
Yeah.
And then when someone was a little bit older, it seemed like a lot older, So it's funny how it all. And then we had all known each other a very long time. Lee and I always played together, but we knew Brian. He was around, and we were all friendly. Brian's brother was our friend. great drummer and, you know, our pal. And we all got into rockabilly around the same time, just gravitated towards each other musically. But everyone knew each other in Little League and school and the whole thing. Everyone knew each other.
When you got into the rockabilly thing as the Stray Cats was starting out, because what was the trend of music when you guys came up with the concept of the Stray Cat? What was going on?
It would have been 79, and Long Island's a little bit funny, you know, like things come and go in the rest of the world without really it being affected there. They're still they like 70s fried rock, which is great. We love that stuff. I always did. Southern fried rock, and they were into rock, you know, whatever the rock music was. New wave came and went very quickly. The Cars, because Elliot Easton was from our school as well, but he's older than all of us. Now it doesn't matter, right? But back then, if you were 7 years older than someone, it was a really big thing. But it was known that he came from our school, and then he went to Boston to go to college and met the guys from the Cars, and that's when they formed later. But the new wave went very quickly. But, you know, arena rock was, you know, Grateful Dead was big, and that rock from the South, who all love rockabilly. That's what we know later on. Of course, Leonard Skinner, the Allman Brothers, all those guys. They love Little Richard and Bill Haley and American Hot Wax and Gene Vincent, Eddie Cochran, Johnny Burnett. They are the ones, they really know that. Just the haircuts were different, and the, you know, style might have been slightly different, but the roots of it, that's what you learn. That was the lucky part about the Stray Cats. For me, I didn't really understand any of this. I thought what we were doing was so in a vacuum, until you go out a little bit and you meet all the people that, you know, are the rock star of the day. Everyone loves this music. I mean, if you meet the guys from Genesis or Yes, I got to know, they love this. Really, the guy from Yes, Chris Squire, was the biggest rockabilly fan ever. And this is the kind of stuff that you learn by going out there and being a bit of the ambassador of it all.
I mean, Jim, you know, when you go back to the roots of rock and roll, Elvis, you know, Bill Haley, you know, for me, like the 45s were a big thing around the house for me as a kid. All the time. And the big radio station back east, CBS FM 101. You know,
as the FM,
FM. And remember Labor Day weekend, always the same number one song. It was in Still of the Night. The 5 cents all the time, Jim, all the time. And for Labor Day weekend, you'd wait, which is the number one song. You'd wait all weekend from a Friday to a Sunday. Is always never got knocked off. Am I right on that one?
WCBS FM.
I don't know my math, but I still remember CBS FM, the 101 hit of Labor Day weekend. That's the one thing. But
who was it? Shotgun Tom and Don.
Cousin Brucey also. Cousin Brucey. It was a great.
Cousin Brucey Moore. I'm a little older than you, a couple, but those guys were on. We didn't always get FM in the house or in the car for sure, right? And it was WABC 77.
That was Don. That was Imus. That's right.
And they used to play music as well.
That's right. And
they would play some oldies. And now, when you look back at what was on the playlist, 1971, 72, is much closer to, I don't know, closer to the roots than you would have thought back then.
You know, Jim, so the other day, and we're talking about the roots of rock and roll. The other day, I went, there's a museum in Seattle, right by it's called, I think it's what's the name of it? Ma Pop or something like this. Anyway, and in the museum, and this is legendary, I see the guitars. You got Bo Diddley's guitar, you'll see Stevie Ray Vaughan's guitar, and then right next to it, Jerry Cantrell's guitar. Like, and I'm thinking, wow, it's like you got Mother Love on Alice in Chains. They're all classics. And I'm just thinking, when you had the club on Sunset Boulevard, the Cat Club next to the Whiskey, Jerry would come in all the time, open up
all the time,
open up and play. And I was at this museum, and I'm thinking, and these people were not taking pictures of Bo Diddley's guitar, that all on Jerry's guitar. And I'm thinking, I remember him coming. We had to push him up the stage. Sorry, we're going on now.
He loves it. Yeah,
and it was great
to him still.
you know, great times. And
That's
that was
awesome. See, that's the new classic.
that's the new
Our own
classic.
generation of people our age.
Yeah. That's the new classic of it. It's wild, huh? When you think about it and the roots. That's why I like doing Talking Wax and talking about the history with the Stray Cats, because one thing you guys did do, you kept the music alive of Bill Haley, Chuck Berry, Eddie Cochran, Gene Vincent. Nowadays, children don't know. The kids of today, they don't know. You ask them the original Beatles. A lot of them don't know the others. It's crazy, right?
That's the thing. They have to organically find it, and then hopefully it has an effect on you.
Yeah.
They'll go through the the Guitar Museum, and like we said, and they'll see who's next to who and who's influenced, and hopefully do the homework, which it can't be like school. They don't have to. But there's going to be a certain amount that do get led there from a different path and get the moment. Like me and us, I wasn't hip to that stuff before I dug back a little bit and find out who likes who, and liner notes, Talking Wax, who's C. Perkins, who's B. Holly, who's E. Cochran. You have to find that out, and then when you do the extra little bit of legwork, there's going to be a certain amount of kids that just get turned on to it.
I mean, the mystery behind a record back then, you'd look at these pictures, which this is so fast. Well, there's little Richard on the cover. They have him from the movie, all glammed out. If you could see him, right there.
Yes.
And I would stare at this. And this was my Bible, Jim. This was my Bible to rock and roll. And I see Steve wish me happy birthday. Thank you, Steve, very much over there. I'll pop that up there. That's right. July 11th, tomorrow. It is my birthday, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Steve.
Oh, your birthday, kid.
Yeah. 54 years on this planet, man. 54 years. So this think about that.
Not really such an anniversary one. You wait till the next one.
I wait for the next one. I wait for the next one. But Jim, you got to do so many cool things. First of all, the Stray Cats. I remember being in junior high school when the Stray Cats, because you were really young, man, when the Cats hit it. How old were you?
19.
So young. You opened up. You did the Still Life tour, right? Was the Still Life tour before that? Let's spend.
It would have been. The release was Tattoo You. Like, what was the tour called? And
I think they called it was the Tattoo You. And then they did a live album, Still Life. They would call it. Remember, they sent out the postcards. And the only way you could see the concert in New York, you had to write a postcard or something. They were giving away the tickets. It was such a huge concert, but you got to do that tour. It's wild.
Where was the show? Meadowlands? One of those?
Yes. The Tattoo You album, huh? How did your introduction to the Rolling Stones? How did that begin? You meeting them, or them meeting the Cats.
That's where the music and being into it comes into play, because you can't really enforce yourself to the people like that. Right? They have to come to you. And we were playing a club in London. Which is the funny irony of it. We're on Long Island, and we decided to go to England because that's where it seemed like it was happening. This is all when we were very young, and there wasn't too much of a plan to it all. Let's go there, okay. And so we somehow managed to get there, kicked around, knocked on enough doors that we got a few opening act slots, fourth on the bill at a pub in the afternoon kind of thing. And the word spread a little bit that there's this outrageous group from New York, and wasn't that many shows into it that they had somehow heard about it. They all came.
They all came down.
Yeah. And had a table at a nightclub. And we would finish the show and whoosh, straight off the stage, and to have an audience with them. It's like in the middle of a club. So I think there was probably a few standing around them to protect them. But they were all there. And maybe that's one of the last times that I don't know, but
I mean, come on,
being a concert, and they really liked us, and they were trying. There was talk about being with their label and them producing it, but to recapture that whole moment, I think we met individually with them a few times.
Yeah,
but to get the whole thing, and the clock was ticking for us getting it all done. Someone who did come up, it was Arista Records, and then it got moved to EMI, but we had to make a thing. But they came, and the next year, this was all 1980.
Wow.
And 81, they did their tour, and we were invited to to play a few of the shows, and we did little gigs in between theirs. I think there were 3. I think we did 3 or 4 with them, but they were spaced out by a week here and there, and we did smaller shows in between, and no one knew us. I can't remember how the shows got booked, but they were little ones in between their big ones. They were very nice. We could come and go as we pleased. I don't know if that really happens too much anymore with any bands.
Yeah.
Anyone can just come in, and we had the deeper access. And what Wyman said back then, if says you go deep enough into any rock show, it's going to be somebody alone and drinking tea by themselves. And that's true. At the end of the day, they're happy that you came. Someone's reading a newspaper, tuning a guitar, and they're just, but it's getting to that spot where no one jumps when you come in, I think.
That's right. I mean, that's great stories, man. I mean, just, you had to pinch yourself. Like, I'm on tour with the Rolling Stones. Here I am. I mean, come on. From Long Island.
Now more.
Yeah, now more. I mean, the people you got to play with, especially hanging out with Harrison. We spoke about that a previous show, but then there's other stuff you did with Carl Perkins.
Yeah.
That session.
Getting to know George Harrison was through Carl Perkins. That's like another one of the cases where you can't quite, it has to come to you naturally. And we had met and worked with Carl Perkins in the early part of the 80s. He was, he came and found us, and then we were asked Lee and I, to be the rhythm section for a TV show. This was 85, 86, after we had known Carl, 82, 83. And Carl asked us to do it. And when introduced to George through Carl, vouched for you kind of thing, there was nothing left to be, didn't have to prove anything or do anything. And then we played the Rockabilly music, and we were good at it. And okay, you didn't stick out in a bad way in any way. And then after a few days, we became very friendly, because there was a couple of 3 days of rehearsal. And the first day they were, they meaning Richard Starkey, Sir Richard of Starkey, Ringo, and George. I'm not quite sure when they saw each other before that. And Eric Clapton was on it. A few people like that. And Carl, of course, they were hanging out with him. And then by the second or third day, we got very close. We did the show that was now a big kind of cult classic. At the time, I don't know how big the show was. I think it was on Channel 4.
It was like maybe
BBC, with
like a PBS or some kind of thing. Yeah, I remember that.
And my little dog has to be part of the show.
Bring the dog on. Bring him on. Let's see that. See, Debbie, Carl Perkins. That's right.
And there we go. There's the great Bandini. There he is. He's getting old too.
There he is. How you doing, little guy?
Gray beard too.
Hey, you know what? We all got it. I mean, Jim, your stories are so legendary and big. And you know what? They are the best. They are the best.
But then to finish that one, we stayed close with George. He's the guy that I did know. And we spoke on the phone and went to lunch sometimes. There's a couple of people. Sometimes it was just the two of us. And he had a third friend. It would be somebody that I would find out later. That guy's a race car driver. I didn't really ask too much,
Very cool.
I wasn't a kid at that point. I was in my 20s and 30s, but I still never really asked too much, just go along. And he's very cool. And it's going to be, we're making a documentary, Jenny and me, and it's all the people that we mentioned are all represented. Some live in person, some very, very close. Next one step always at the most, and it's all going to happen. And it's this music has to continue, and everyone's got to really stay hip to it. Every 30, 40 years is my job to
give it away. I don't want to give it away, but you went back to Sun Studios. You did some cool stuff in the dock, which you told me a little stuff that you did, which is pretty cool, man. The spot where you went to.
Sun Studio is a very important place, 760 Union Avenue. And we went there a few months ago, and there was pictures of us on the wall from the 80s. So we must have made a pilgrimage there. And I know we did. When I get revealed, we had been there with Johnny Halliday.
Yeah, French guy.
And it was for French television back then. Always things are a little bit more ignored here, which no reason. Your own backyard, sometimes you don't notice how good the flowers are in your own backyard.
Yeah.
So, that's the thing. And we're going to do some gardening.
Yeah.
Like you today. And just to introduce everybody to it, and everyone's really saying yes and wanting to talk about it. Like all the original artists that we can get to and very close to them, and then all the new artists of today. Everyone loves the link, you know.
Excellent. I had a gentleman on the show, which they opened up, I believe, for you guys, In Excess, Andrew Ferris, and we'll have we'll be into bringing his show to Talking Wax next week, but at 8 p.m. But
please say hello to, he's great. I love those guys, John and Andrew and Tim. Michael was my friend. I knew, and in a funny thing, we're playing a show on September the 18th in Grapevine, Texas. The Slim Jim Trio, and one of the groups on there is Gary from In Excess.
Really,
it's so funny.
Wow!
You just mentioned those guys out of that's who the gig is. So I do look forward to catching up with Gary and talk about all the guys and
all that stuff.
Positive way. We did a lot of work with them. Like in a funny way, one of their first American tours, might be the first or their second American tour, was a special guest with Stray Cats, and then a few years after that, Lee Rocker and I made a solo record, and we were the special guests on In Excess gigs. It's just a small world.
It's a small world. The man, you've done so much. Jim, it is the witching hour, because 8 p.m. on Talking Wax, it's me and you talking vinyl, strictly vinyl on your music and the music that influenced Rant and Rave. And that's coming up next, everybody. But I want to thank Jim for coming on last minute with us tonight. And this was a nice way to spend my birthday with you.
Yeah, fantastic, buddy.
Yeah, I always love talking with you. You're one of my best friends. I love you, Jim. Thanks for being here with me.
Love you too, Steph.
You know, you're one of the good people. Everybody out there, I want to thank you for being here with us tonight. Donnell, great show. Thank you, sweetheart, from all the way from Ireland. Because Jim, that's your people. We have beautiful Debbie there. Love you, Jim. Everybody, please check out Jim's webpage right down there, www.slimjimphantom.com. Sundays, Sirius XM. You are on every Sunday at what time, Jim?
7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Rockabilly Rave Up. Me, your Rockabilly buddy, Slim Jim Phantom, Sirius XM, right here in Little Steven's Underground Garage. And Thursday nights we have Slim Jim Fantasy for all you baseball fans out there. That's Sirius XM channel 210, and that's live every Thursday night, 7 o'clock Pacific Standard.
That's it. It's all happening. And any other good information you want from Slim Jim, check out his webpage. And Jim has a Patreon account as well. You could check out photos you don't see of the Stray Cats and much, much more.
That's right. Deep stuff there, Steph.
That's right. It's all good stuff there. The secret good stuff is on Slim's Patreon page. We love you, everybody. We'll see you at 8 p.m. Talking Wax on Slim Jim's Rant and Rave Stray Cats album that he did 1983, was it? 80.
Yes. Did we tell the whole story about that one? We did it in London and then mixed it.
Let's not give it away. It's coming up right now in 2 minutes. Come meet us over there, everybody. We love you, Jim. Hang out right here. We'll see you all there, everybody. We love you. And be good to each other, everybody. Mwah. All righty. See you later.
Love you, baby.
Boom.